continues to the collecting duct. So this straight tubular structure that we see, it is the collecting duct. That is the region where the filtrate gets actually collected. Hydrogen ions, and they are releasing sodium chloride, water and bicarbonates into the kidney. It is a filtrate, so that the proper filtration occurs. Some modifications occurs in this distal convoluted tubule, and those modifications actually results in the formation of a juxtaglomerular apparatus. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to another session on chapter 19, that is excretory products and their elimination. I am Dr. Divya, Biology faculty, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru, Temple of Excellence. So in the previous session of this chapter, we had discussed about the different excretory products in various animals, and also we discussed about the excretory structure in humans, that is the kidneys, and also we learned about the functional unit of the kidney, that is nephron. Because we know so much now, in today's session, we shall discuss about the urine formation and what are the functions of the different tubules that are there in the nephron. So to begin with, we shall learn about the formation of the urine. So urine formation occurs in three main processes, because I told you though kidney might be the organ of excretion, but here each pair of kidney, they have millions of functional units called as nephrons, and it is these nephrons that actually participate in the process of filtration and the elimination of waste. So how does this urine form and how it gets exactly eliminated? That we shall study in three important steps. That is, one is glomerular filtration, the second one is reabsorption, and the third one is secretion. So all these three steps, that is glomerular filtration, reabsorption and secretion, takes part in different parts or takes place in different parts of the nephron. First, to begin with, we shall start with glomerular filtration. As the name itself suggests, glomerular, which is the glomerular part of the kidney? This one, right? These are the small tubular structure that are there. These are the glomerulars of the kidney. And it is in this part actually the filtration occurs. So that is why it is called as glomerular filtration. So the first step in urine formation is the filtration of the blood. So in the blood there are a lot of components or ions that are present that are not needed. So that needs to get filtered. So which is carried out by the glomerulus, and therefore it is called as the glomerular filtration. On an average, an adult human being can filter about 1100 to 1200 ml of blood by each pair of kidney per minute, which is roughly about only 1/5 of the blood pumped out of the each ventricle of the heart in a minute. So in the previous chapter, that is the blood circulation, we had studied that the ventricles, they pump out about 50 ml of blood, right? And therefore, when one cardiac cycle gets completed in a minute, it pumps about, because 72 times the beating of the heart takes place. So when 72 times the cardiac cycle gets completed, 5000 ml of blood is pumped out. But the kidney on an average can only filter out of that so much amount of blood that is pumped out. The kidney can filter only about 1100 to 1200 ml of blood. So this was about the filtration process. So moving further, the glomerular capillary blood pressure is the one that actually causes the filtration of the blood, and the filtration occurs through three layers. That is, the glomerulus has three layers. The glomerular part of the nephron, it is made up of three layers, and when a pressure is exerted on these layers, the filtration of the blood, that is the glomerular filtration, occurs. So what are the three layers it is made up of? One is the endothelium of glomerular blood vessels, the epithelium of the Bowman's capsule, and a basement membrane between these two layers. So whereas Bowman's capsule also plays a very important role here, because it is inside the Bowman's capsule or in the gap of the Bowman's capsule wherein the glomerular capillaries are present. So in this the filtration will occur. In the membranes of these the filtration will actually occur. So the epithelial cells of the Bowman's capsule, which is called as the podocytes, they are arranged in a very close manner so as to leave some minute spaces called as the filtration slits or the slit pores. So why exactly the membrane participates in the filtration? It is because the epithelial cells, that is the membrane of the epithelium membrane of the Bowman's capsule, it is made up of epithelial cells, and the epithelial cells are arranged in such a way that there are minute spaces between the cells. It is through these minute spaces that the filtration occurs. So just imagine how a sieve for filtering coffee and all that, or filtering tea, looks like. Just exactly like that it is arranged. So that is why it is called as the filtration unit, because it is made up of minute slit pores which helps in the process of filtration. So here what happens in glomerular filtration? So the glomerular capillary blood pressure will increase in the glomerulus, which causes the filtration of the blood through three important layers, which is the endothelium of the glomerular blood vessel, the epithelium of the Bowman's capsule, and the basement membrane that is present between the endothelium and the epithelium of the Bowman's capsule. So in the epithelial cells of the Bowman's capsule, there are lots of minute tiny pores or spaces that are present, which is called as the filtration slits or the slit pores, and it is through these minute spaces the filtration actually occurs. So now we know through which the filtration occurs. So next, moving further, the blood is filtered. So through these filtration spaces that is there. So where is the filtration spaces present? It is present in the epithelium of the Bowman's capsule. So the epithelial cells of the Bowman's capsule are arranged with lots of intricate spaces, right? Through these, the blood is filtered so finely through these membranes that almost all the constituents of the plasma except the proteins, they pass into the lumen of the Bowman's capsule. So the lumen of the Bowman's capsule is nothing but the cavity. So this cavity that is there in the Bowman's capsule, which is called as the lumen. So the blood gets filtered and it passes into that particular lumen or the cavity. And therefore, it is considered as an ultrafiltration process. Why is it an ultrafiltration process? Because whatever component is present in the blood, apart from the proteins, because proteins are needed for the body, it should not be lost, right? So whatever components are present in the blood, including all the constituents of the plasma except for the proteins that is present in the blood, everything gets filtered very, very finely and very, very precisely. That is why this particular filtration process, that is glomerular filtration process, is called as the ultrafiltration. And the amount of filtrate formed by the kidney per minute is called as the glomerular filtration rate. So amount of filtrate that is produced per minute, how much ml of blood is filtered? Somewhere around 1100 to 1200 ml of blood, right? So per minute, the amount of blood that is filtered and the filtrate that is got is called as the glomerular filtration rate. And the glomerular filtration rate of a healthy person is approximately 125 milliliters per minute, that is 180 liters per day. So per day, 180 liters of urine passes out of a body. That is nothing but the glomerular filtrate. So what is the glomerular filtration rate of a healthy person? It is 180 liters per day. So this was about glomerular filtration. Now, the filtration, we have understood that 180 liters of filtrate is passed every day. And the kidneys, they have a built-in mechanism for the regulation of the glomerular filtration. Now, from the glomerular filtration, that is, we studied that the nephrons, all the different nephrons that are there, that is, they are connected to the renal pelvis of the kidney. Now, here what happens? The filtrate will enter into the kidney. So, the kidneys have a built-in mechanism for the regulation of the glomerular filtration rate. And one such efficient mechanism or one such efficient filtration mechanism wherein 180 liters of urine is eliminated every day, that is actually carried out by the juxtaglomerular apparatus. So, where is this juxtaglomerular apparatus present? So, juxta means something near to. So it is present near to the glomerular. So that is why it is called as the juxtaglomerular apparatus. So juxtaglomerular apparatus is a special sensitive region which is formed by cellular modifications that occurs in the distal convoluted tubule. So the distal convoluted tubule that is there, which is the ascending loop of the hairless, it again continues to form highly coiled structures which is called as the distal convoluted tubule. So this distal convoluted tubule, actually some modifications occurs in this distal convoluted tubule, and those modifications actually results in the formation of a juxtaglomerular apparatus, and this juxtaglomerular apparatus is one such structure in the nephron that actually helps in the efficient maintenance of the glomerular filtration rate in a healthy person. And a fall in the glomerular filtration rate, it can activate the juxtaglomerular cells to release renin, which can stimulate the glomerular blood flow and thereby the GFR back to normal. So what happens sometimes when there is a fall in the glomerular filtration rate? So I told you the glomerular filtration rate is 180 liters per day, right? That is how much amount of the blood or how much amount of filtrate is obtained after the filtration of somewhere around 1100 to 1200 ml of blood. Now so much amount of glomerular filtrate should be obtained. So that is called as the glomerular filtration rate. So that glomerular filtration rate should be maintained. Sometimes what happens, because of some reason, there can be a fall in the glomerular filtration rate or a decrease in the glomerular filtration rate. At that time what happens? The fall in the glomerular filtration rate, it will very soon activate the juxtaglomerular apparatus to release a compound which is called as renin, and that renin actually stimulates the blood flow, so that only so much amount of blood flows into the kidney, then it will be accepted by the nephron and then the filtration will occur. So that will be taken care by renin whenever there is a fall or decrease in the glomerular filtration rate, so that proper blood flow will occur and proper filtration can occur, so that the glomerular filtration can come back to normal, wherein 180 liters per day filtrate can be obtained. So that is about glomerular filtration. Now the filtration has occurred. What next? Next is reabsorption. So a comparison of volume of the filtrate formed per day, that is how much 180 liters per day glomerular filtrate is formed, with that of the urine released, suggests that nearly 99% of the filtrate has to be reabsorbed by the renal tubules. It will be reabsorbed by the renal tubules, right? Because all the collecting ducts of the nephron at the end will go and join in the renal tubule of the kidney. So there, this process is called as reabsorption, and the tubular epithelial cells in the different segments of the nephron, they perform this either by active or passive mechanism, either by active absorption or passive absorption. So active absorption will require energy, whereas passive absorption will not require energy. So thereby, by active and passive absorption mechanism, whatever filtration has occurred in the glomerulus, that glomerular filtrate will be reabsorbed by the renal tubules that are present in the kidney. So that particular process is called as reabsorption, and the tubular epithelial cells which are present in the different segments of the nephron, they actually perform this function either by an active or a passive mechanism. So this reabsorption has occurred. Next, after reabsorption, say for example, in the case of, they have given one example here how reabsorption occurs by taking the example of substances like glucose, amino acids, sodium ions, etc. So all these are present in the filtrate. Say for example, now the filtrate, I told you what all will be there in the filtrate. All the components in the plasma will remain as such. So what all is there in the glomerular filtrate? All the components of the plasma, and we had studied in blood circulation, plasma is made up of different types of minerals as well, right? So apart from the proteins that are present in the blood, all the components of the plasma, they get filtered, and they are called as the glomerular filtrate. Now here we have taken example of a glomerular filtrate that is containing substances like glucose, amino acids, sodium ions, etc. So these are actively reabsorbed, whereas the nitrogenous waste are absorbed by passive transport. So active reabsorption, I told you the juxtaglomerular apparatus is capable of active filtration mechanism, and also it is capable of passive filtration mechanism, right? Or active reabsorption and passive reabsorption. So here active reabsorption of substances like glucose, amino acids, sodium ions, etc. So in the glomerular filtrate, there is, say for example, in the glomerular filtrate, there is glucose, amino acids, sodium, and there is nitrogenous waste. Now, the nitrogenous waste gets absorbed by the renal tubule by passive absorption mechanism, whereas substances like glucose, amino acids, sodium, etc. gets absorbed from the glomerular filtrate by the renal tubule through active mechanism. And apart from this, the reabsorption of water also occurs passively in the initial segments of the nephron. So apart from this, the reabsorption of water will also occur, because at the end of the day, all these gets eliminated out of a body along with water, right? So that is the reason, and the absorption of water is also passive mechanism. So next, moving on further, we'll talk about the next process, that is secretion. So during urine formation, the tubular cells secrete substances. So what are the tubular cells? We have the distal convoluted tubule and all that. They secrete certain substances like hydrogen ions, potassium ions, and ammonia into the filtrate. The tubular secretion is also one of the very important step in the urine formation, as it helps in maintaining the ionic as well as acid balance of the body fluids, because at the end of the day, all this is based on the absorption process. So the tubular secretion is also a very important step in the urine formation, as it helps in maintaining the ionic as well as the acidic balance, acid-base balance of the body fluid, and therefore helping in proper secretion process. So as you can see here, how the tubules that are there. So we have the proximal convoluted tubule and the distal convoluted tubule. So you can see here the proximal convoluted tubule is absorbing H plus and NH3. Therefore, to maintain a ionic balance, they are releasing bicarbonate ions, sodium chloride, nutrients, potassium ions, water, etc. into the kidneys. And here also the distal convoluted tubules of the nephron, they are absorbing potassium ions, hydrogen ions, and they are releasing sodium chloride, water, and bicarbonates into the kidney, into the filtrate, so that the proper filtration can occur. So that release is nothing but the secretion. So this secretion during the urine formation is very important to maintain a ionic balance and also to maintain a acid-base balance in the nephron. So that is why it is very important. Let's see the function of the proximal convoluted tubule. We came to know that they are very important. They are the ones that are actually involved in the third step of urine formation, that is secretion. So what is their exact function? We shall look into. So the first tubule is the proximal convoluted tubule. So the proximal convoluted tubule is lined by, or it is covered by, a simple cuboidal brush border epithelium which increases. So these brush border cells, they have minute finger-like projections, and these minute finger-like projections are the ones that actually increases the surface area of absorption or reabsorption, and nearly all of the essential nutrients and 70 to 80% of the electrolytes and water are reabsorbed by this particular segment, that is the proximal convoluted tubule. As you can see, the reabsorption of most of the nutrients, the ions, the acids, the bases, all that occurs. So as we can see, the absorption of essential nutrients, most of the electrolytes, water, ions, all that gets reabsorbed by the proximal convoluted tubule. And the proximal convoluted tubule, apart from that, it also helps in maintaining the pH and the ionic balance of the body fluids by selective secretion of hydrogen ions, ammonia, potassium ions into the filtrate, and again absorption of bicarbonates from it. So what all they do? They absorb. So they reabsorb all the essential nutrients. They reabsorb because all those should not be a part of the filtrate. They should not go out of the body. So that is why proximal convoluted tubule helps in the reabsorption of a lot of essential nutrients, lot of electrolytes and water and all that. And apart from that, they also help in maintaining the pH and ionic balance of the body by secreting certain ions such as hydrogen ions and secreting ammonium, potassium ions into the filtrate, and also by absorbing the bicarbonate ions so that the ionic balance can be maintained there. Next, talking about the Henle's loop. So, Henle's loop is also a tubular structure in the kidney wherein it consists of the descending Henle's loop. So, this one is the descending Henle's loop and the ascending Henle's loop. So, what is the function? We shall look into. So, reabsorption is very less in the ascending limb when compared to that of the descending limb. So, descending limb the reabsorption is more and ascending limb the reabsorption is very less. And this region, that is the ascending limb of the Henle's loop, it plays a very important role in maintenance of high osmolarity of the medullary interstitial fluid. So, the medulla part of the kidney, whatever fluid is there, they help in maintaining a osmotic balance between the nephron and the medulla part of the kidney. And the descending Henle's loop that is there, it is permeable to water. That is, it allows the entry of water very easily, but it is impermeable to electrolytes. So that is why electrolyte reabsorption occurs in the proximal convoluted tubule. It will not occur in the Henle's loop. But water reabsorption occurs in the Henle's loop. Electrolyte reabsorption occurs in the proximal convoluted tubule. Why not in the Henle's loop? Because the Henle's loop is not permeable to electrolytes, but it is only permeable to water. So this concentrate of this filtrate actually moves down. So it moves down and then it enters into the ascending loop. What happens in the ascending loop? So in the ascending limb, it is impermeable to water, but it allows the transport of electrolytes actively or passively. Therefore, as the concentrated filter passes upward, that is through the ascending limb of the Henle's loop, it gets diluted due to the passage of electrolytes to the medullary fluid. So, again here dilution occurs. Why? Because the electrolytes will get passed. It is permeable to electrolytes. It will help in the passage of the electrolytes from the nephron, that is from the ascending loop of the Henle's, into the medulla part of the kidney. So that is how the concentration of the urine will get reduced. Next, moving on to the distal convoluted tubule. So here the conditional reabsorption of sodium ions and water takes place in the distal convoluted tubule. So it is also the ascending loop of Henle's. It continues to a highly coiled structure called as the distal convoluted tubule. What is the function of the distal convoluted tubule? The function of the distal convoluted tubule is reabsorption of sodium ions and water. Distal convoluted tubule, apart from that, it is also capable of reabsorption of bicarbonate ions, and it is also capable of selectively secreting hydrogen and potassium ions and also ammonia to maintain a pH, and also it secretes sodium, potassium in such a way that the sodium potassium concentration gets balanced in the blood. So that is the function of the distal convoluted tubule. So next, moving further to the collecting duct. So collecting duct, the distal convoluted tubule, next continues to the collecting duct. So this straight tubular structure that we see, it is the collecting duct. That is a region where the filtrate gets actually collected. So this long duct extends from the cortex of the kidney to the inner parts of the medulla. I told you, all the collecting duct at the end, it will reach the medulla of the kidney, and large amounts of water could be reabsorbed from this region to produce a concentrated urine. And this particular collecting duct, it actually allows the passage of small amounts of urea into the medullary interstitium in order to maintain the osmolarity. And it also plays a very important role in maintaining the pH and ionic balance of the blood by selectively secreting hydrogen ions and potassium ions. So that is the function of the collecting duct. So this was about the urine formation and the function of each of the parts of the nephron, that is the tubules of the nephron, starting from the proximal convoluted tubule to the descending loop of the hairless, the ascending loop of the hairless, and then the distal convoluted tubule, and then finally the collecting duct. And whatever filtrate gets collected in the collecting duct, it enters into the kidney part, that is the medulla part of the kidney, and from there the elimination process, what all has to occur, that will occur. So this was about the particular session wherein we studied about how urine formation occurs and what are the functions of the different tubules that are there in the nephron. So I hope you understood this session well. So in the next session, we shall study about how the concentration of the urine occurs and how is the function of the kidney regulated. So how is the function of the kidney balanced? So all that we shall study in the coming sessions. Thank you.